Hi, good afternoon, and welcome back to Gunny's View. Like I said, this program, and this is episode 2, is not a reflection of anything to do with the United States Marines, where I spent more than 20 years, and it's going to be no reflection on any police department. This is simply Gunny's View. It has nothing to do with anything else but my opinion only. And my view is based upon years of experience in the fields, looking at this, checking out that, education, serious amount of training, and I came to some really serious conclusions on a certain case. And this is the one that I brought up the last time in episode 1. This is going to be the case of Alabama versus Mark Harper, Zachary and Jeremy Cain, and a Christopher Stano. Now, one of the things I'm going to concentrate on today very carefully is how some of this stuff happened. When parents get involved in teenage issues, it's almost always going to be a mess. It's very few times that they're going to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to do the right thing here. Because no, you're in the interest of your family and the other people are in interest of themselves. So when you as a parent run out there and jump into the middle of something, when your kid's not even present, and confront somebody on something that they don't believe they ever done, yeah, there's going to be a big issue and there's likely to be a fight. And in this particular case, there was a fight that day. Now, Jimmy Hill ended up dead. Now, I'm not going to say whether it was right or wrong. Nobody deserves to die. But too many things just doesn't seem to add up. Now, I had an in-depth talk and interview with Mark Harper. He told me, had those guys of Jeremy and Zachary Cain not been there, he believes that he truly would have died that day. He told me that Jimmy Hill raised a large stick, like a piece of timber that they use in a garden, above his head after he reached out, grabbed him by the shirt, pulled him up to him, and then stuck his tongue in his mouth, then shoved the boy to the ground. That's when he raised the stick to hit him, and he said he saw one of the other guys, he wasn't even sure at the time, but he thought it was Jeremy, who grabbed a bat and hit the subject only on the leg. And he said it didn't even look like it was that hard. He said like he was trying to distract him. Then he hit him again on the arm when the first blow didn't seem to slow him down, because it looked like he was still going after Mark, according to Jeremy. Now, if that happened the way it says, this is a clear-cut case of self-defense, because he turns his attention on the boy who's standing there with the bat to hit him with a piece of timber, when the other brother decides, no, you're not going after my brother. And at that point, Zachary swung and connected with him, and then he swung a second time. At that point, the whole thing ended. A total of 4 blows that actually went through, with the exception of him reaching out and grabbing Mark Harper and doing what he did to him. He should have never put his hands on that 16-year-old boy, and he sure shouldn't have stuck his tongue in his mouth, and sure should not have told him, hey, I'm going to make you suck my you-know-what. The boy honestly felt like that day he was about to be forced to do that, and that he may get killed if he hits him with that piece of timber. But you know why it never came out in court? Their miserable, butted attorneys never let them testify. Now, they're claiming self-defense. And when you claim self-defense, as a juror, I want to hear from your mouth what you were feeling that day that made you believe that you had to react in this manner to protect yourself. Why was it self-defense to you? Now, what their attorneys did, instead of putting them on the stand, oh, they're too young, let me not put them on. No, they can get up on the stand and they can be prepped and they can be put, and then just tell the truth. The jury needs to hear the truth. They don't need to hear lies that are made up by somebody else. Instead of just a half similar attacks on the witnesses, which is basically all the attorneys did. Now, I actually spoke to a couple of jurors. Now, this was an all-black jury for all white subjects. Now, it ain't got nothing to do with race, but there should have been a few white people in there, maybe, just to kind of give it some balance. Because had that been 3 black kids at that time, and they were judged by a jury of all whites, oh, they'd have blown the roof off the place. You know it and I know it. Racism would have been the big thing. They convicted them because they're black. Well, who's to say they didn't get convicted because they were white? Or they wanted to hold somebody accountable for the death of Jimmy Hill. Jimmy Hill, which on episode 3, I'm going to go through some of who Jimmy Hill really was. Now, like I said, this is my opinion, but that opinion will be based on facts. Everything that I dug up, everything that I looked at. If Jimmy Hill truly raised a large piece of timber to hit Mark Harper, who was already on the ground after he sexually assaulted him. Now, I call it sexual assault when you grab a man and stick your tongue in your mouth, knock him down, and tell him you're going to make him suck your you know what. That is a sexual assault. If you don't think it is, so be it. It doesn't bother me. This is my opinion. Remember, this is my view. But had he done that to me when I was only 15 or 16, I would have reacted the same way as everybody else. I would have come up off that ground with a bat and knocked the snot out of him. Would I have intended to kill him? No. But I don't know what he was planning on doing with that piece of timber, which was never presented in court. You know why? Because they kept it out. But I found in the records and evidence they had gathered a piece of timber that day. But why didn't it come up? Why didn't the attorneys for those boys attack that? Hey, you gathered it. What did you do with it? Why isn't this being presented? Well, why? Because something isn't right here. When attorneys don't question those kind of things, you know they're not doing their best job. When they deny you and tell you that, oh, I'm going to let you testify, but when it came time and you wanted to testify, they turned around and told you, oh, I'm sorry, it's too late, you can't do this. They're lying. Those boys had every right to testify. They had every right to tell the jury what happened that day and their views of what occurred, what they were feeling, what they were thinking, what happened to them. Why did Jimmy Hill run from his house all the way down the street to confront them? And why did Paul Gillian tell so many versions of what happened that day? I've counted at least 6 versions. 6 different versions of what happened. I don't think he even knows what happened. Because at one point he claimed that he saw the first lick and then he jumped over the rail, hit the ground, but never mentioned anybody that he injured himself and rolled all the way the length of his yard. So when he's rolling, you know as well as I do, when I jump off something 6 feet up, I'm looking at where I'm going. I am not looking at them and not looking to see where I'm going to land. And if I hit and injure myself and start rolling, what kind of a view do you get when you are rolling down a hill? You can't see anything that makes sense to you. It becomes a fog. Why did he lie? Why did he tell so many versions? Why have they kept these kids who's never been in trouble before in prison for over 20 years when I know they've let out people who've done 10 times worse? Did they go there that day to intentionally kill Jimmy? No. Did they even expect to see him that day? No. So it wasn't premeditated, but they called it intentional murder. That means I intended to kill him. And I don't believe they did. The evidence doesn't support it. Nothing supports it. Nothing presents any version where they should still be in prison today. They should have been given the same thing as old Mr. Stano. Now, he got the sweetheart deal. Now, I got a question. He was a big boy. Why didn't he get out of that truck and try to stop this? What efforts did he make to prevent this from even happening? As big as he was, compared to the rest of them, he could have very easily brought this whole thing to a stop, but instead he sits in a truck and watches. I'm sorry, Mr. Stano, but that makes you complicit. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to help prevent it. You're just going to sit and watch and then reap the benefits of it. Doesn't work. Now, it worked at the time because there seems to be some crooked crap going on. We're going to need to look at that, and we will on the next episode. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate it that you're listening to me on this. Please send me email to gunniesview@gmail.com. Give me an opportunity to answer you. Give me an opportunity to respond to your questions, and then I'll dig into those subjects and I'll give you direct answers straight from the record. But there's going to be one thing that you're going to want to really catch, and that'll be a surprise towards the end. Something that I found. Something that should have had a massive effect on the verdict. Something that was hidden from the jurors. But until next time. Now, I always end with my jackass of the day. Today, my jackass of the day is BLM, Black Lives Matter. It's nothing more than a little terrorist organization that went out and burned down the cities and the streets, caused death, robbery, mayhem, all over, or using the excuse of the man who was killed out there, George Floyd, the man who held a gun to a woman's head that was pregnant during a home invasion, was a known thief, known robber, known this, dug drugs, everything, you name it. Yeah, did he deserve to die? No. Did he contribute to his death? Absolutely. But you want to find somebody to hold responsible, so you find yourself a white cop. Then BLM springs up just before that, and then they use that as an excuse to basically steal money from corporations to get them to, contribute to them. And what did they do with it? Nothing for the black people. Black people got no help from BLM. All they done was cause them more heartache and trouble. There are a lot of really good black people out here in this country, and I call them Black Americans. I don't call them African Americans because I don't know of an African American. I don't know of a German American. I don't know anything about Irish Americans, even though I've got Irish in my blood and I've also got Indian in my blood. But I got news for you. I consider myself simply an American. When you start introducing color, you introduce trouble. You introduce problems. When I was a Marine, we were light green and dark green, but we were green. When I was an officer, we were light blue and dark blue. There were no black officers, no white officers as far as I was concerned. But now that's up to you to decide. The minute America becomes America, and we quit using color as an excuse for anything whatsoever, and we start applying things as nothing but Americans, we could become America again. I remember a time when we were considered the most powerful nation on earth. Now we're the most confused nation on earth. We don't know a man from a woman. We don't know a black from a white. We don't know anything anymore because we got people like Biden in charge, who's a freaking flipping idiot. But that's just my view, my opinion. Thank you for listening to me today, and be prepared. Episode 3 will be coming soon. Thank you, and have a nice day. And remember that email, gunniesview@gmail.com. Send me some emails. Ask me some questions. I will address them. Until then, thank you, and have a nice day.